Welcome to the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and this podcast is your guide to start creating a lifestyle by design. From entrepreneurship, money and finance, tax optimization and residencies, and everything in between, this show highlights the nuances of a true global citizen lifestyle. Let's dive in. Naima, welcome to the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast. I am very much so looking forward to our conversation today, centered around the entrepreneurial mindset and success mindset. But before we dive in, you have a very interesting, from the little that I know, background and history. So share with the listeners and myself a little bit more about your story and how you've gotten to where you are today.
To give you a little bit about my background and my story, so I'm currently a mindset coach. I'm a speaker and author. I literally just co-authored a book with the legendary Les Brown, so I'm very excited about that. My passion right now is to help people break free from the cycles of stress and anxiety and overwhelm and all those negative thinking patterns that hold us back and that prevent us from going after what we want, from what we want to achieve in this life. My background, excuse me, my background. So I'm an immigrant. I'm originally from Morocco. I moved to the States in 1998 in pursuit of the American dream. And few years later, I realized that American dream was actually turning into a nightmare because of the challenges and the setbacks that I've experienced. And it took me a few years to snap out of it, to figure out, to get clarity about what I want to do in life and how I want to live my life here. And working on myself was the number one thing that helped me change my outcome, if I can say. I live by a quote from Wayne Dyer. He said, "When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change." So I realized back then that I needed to work on me, that I needed to work on my mindset, on myself, in order for the things around me to change. And that's exactly what happened. I went from years of doing mediocre jobs, working as a babysitter and as a waitress, to getting my MBA, to having a career in a pharmaceutical, to move into the DC area. And I actually had a career of 12 years working as a CIA officer, to now having my own business and coaching and speaking and helping others shorten the duration of time that they can go through so they can achieve their goals and go after their dreams a lot faster than a lot of people do, because of one thing and one thing only, which is being stuck, which is the mindset. So once we figure out what we want and we clear a lot of the limiting beliefs and the bugs on the way, then we can achieve our goals a lot easier.
You mentioned that you were originally from Morocco, are originally from Morocco, came to the US, became in time a CIA officer, and now you're a mindset expert. So share a little bit about, I'm curious, like what the purpose of wanting to leave looked like, and then your journey within the US. You mentioned that you went from, job to job. And so I'm curious how that ended up and if mindset was a piece of how you ended up in a position with the CIA and then why you chose to leave that. I think a lot of people would think that's a very well respected, established position to start something of your own.
So in the process, I I learned so much about myself once I started working on me. And I realized that in order for me to achieve what I want, I have to change who I am. I have to figure out what's blocking me from doing what I want. I had to figure out what the limiting beliefs that I have are and figure out how to change them. And once I did that, my life started to change. So, one of my biggest goals coming to this country was to go back to school and have an MBA. And for literally 8 years, I couldn't take action. I stopped myself because I didn't believe in myself enough that I could do it. I didn't believe that I was coming up with all kind of reasons and excuses. I don't have the money. I don't have the resources. My English is not good. I don't think I can do it. I have to work. How can I support myself and go back to school? It costs a lot of money. And literally, when I took that action and I went to the campus and started talking to someone there, I realized that actually I qualified to have a student loan. And this whole time, there was a route to further my education that I was completely unaware of. Why? Because I blocked myself from doing that. I blocked myself from even taking action to even figure out what I can and cannot do. And this is just one area. We do this in every area of our life, whatever that is. We come up with the stories that block us from getting from where we are to where we want to be. And that's why when I started working on myself, and I just realized that mindset is everything. It is truly everything. People live these days, the world we live in is a noisy world, but our internal dialogue is even noisier. And if we don't figure out a way to get our thoughts and under control and to guide our thoughts in a way that support us instead of hindering us, then we just become lost. I mean, you see how many of us wake up in the morning and go on autopilot. We just get caught up in the routines of life and living life unthinkingly, just doing it, just going through the motions. And it impacted me so much that I just started talking about it to everybody, like my friends. I start talking to people and I can hear those limiting beliefs. I just can hear why people are feeling stuck in certain areas of their life. And I became so passionate about it that that's what I decided to do. And I thought, I want to have my own thing. I want to have my own business. This is what I want to do. This is the legacy that I want to leave for myself. And that's how I decided to just go into it full time.
I love that. And I love what I kind of call, there's a lot of different names for it, critical thinking of what you actually want in your life instead of, like you said, being on that autopilot and just going through the motions, which is very easy to do. But when you actually critically reflect on that, I'm going to say most people, but some people are okay with that and want that lifestyle. And I always say, like, that's great if you're happy doing that. But a lot of us are not. And that's why we live on traditional lives like me and like you. So I want to talk about and focus for entrepreneurs specifically on the stuckness. What does being stuck look like? I'm sure that it can come in many different forms. And then how can you identify that and then work toward getting yourself out of being stuck?
So I'm sure you've heard the saying, success is 80% mindset, 20% strategy. And as an entrepreneur myself, and I'm gonna bet and say that you probably experienced that as well. We always go after strategies. We just want to figure out what is the next strategy that's going to get me to where I want to be. But it's really not the strategy. It's the mindset. If you don't have the right mindset that will help you succeed, you can have the best strategy in the world, but it won't change anything in your life. If you're going after something with the belief that even if it's unconscious and you don't think that that's going to work for you, it's not going to work. You've already made a decision before you even started. So stuckness, in my opinion, is when we have that inner conflict, is when I want this, but. So I want more money, but I can't make more money. I want a relationship, but relationships don't work out. I want to go on this vacation, but I don't think I can And the only person blocking you from doing that is you, because we come up with all the stories in our mind, and we manufacture all the reasons why we can't do something. And once we make a decision, because it is a decision, if I say I want this but I can't, that's in itself is a decision. And once we make that decision, then we can't take we can't even help ourselves take action, because we already think that, okay, so what's the use, whether we're conscious of it or not. And that's the problem. We have to become very aware of the inner conflicts that we have. It's like we have, in all the different areas of our life, we have all these limiting beliefs and all these inner conflicts, and we're going through life every day like we're holding this backpack of inner conflicts, and we're not even aware of it. And that's what occupies our most of our thinking. A lot of times, you hear a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, people go, I don't have enough time, oh, there's so much to do, not enough time to do it. But the reason why we don't have enough time, a lot of times I ask people, well, how much time do you spend thinking about the future, or going over the past, and wondering whether you're making the right decision? And we just anticipate the future with anxiety, or live in the past. How much time do we spend in that? And it drains our energy. We don't even realize it, but we're so active in our mind that it drains our energy. So one of the important things to do is to figure out what those inner conflicts are, to figure out what those limiting beliefs are, because that's the only way to move past that, to do something about them and move past that and create empowering beliefs, so we can start operating using those empowering beliefs, instead of going into life every day thinking, oh, I can't do that. I want that, but I can't have it. But if I wake up in the morning and go, man, I need to call this client, but I don't think he's gonna do anything, or I don't think he's ready to buy, or you're already defeated before you even start. And once we're defeated in our mind, it's over. So it's really, really important, whether you do it yourself, whether you work with someone, but it's really important to figure out what's blocking you in the area of your life where you can't progress. In any area of our life, if we're not moving forward, it's because there is a limiting belief that's preventing us from doing it. And I honestly, I truly believe that that's the only reason why. If we're on point A and we want to be in point B, look at what you have in between. A simple question I ask my clients, okay, what's the problem? You're here and you want to be there. What's the problem? And you'll be amazed the reasons people come up with. And these are just stories. To us, they're valid, because we can only go based on our experiences and everything that we lived, and what we heard, and the life conditioning that we've been through. And I would believe all those reasons. But all those reasons, when you start, dismantling one by one, you realize they're just limiting belief. If someone else can go from that point, from point A to point B, so can I. If someone else can do it, I can too. But you have to believe that you can. If you don't, you can't do anything about it.
Are you looking to become a diversified global citizen? If this is a lifestyle that you're seeking to create, we can help. Whether it be multiple residencies, citizenships, bank accounts, trusts, or company formations, we operate in 30 plus of the most tax-friendly jurisdictions around the globe to get you structured properly. Head to the link in the show notes to learn more and to get your global citizen journey underway today. So I'm curious, and I think this will call some listeners out, which is a good thing. What are some of the more common limiting beliefs that we see? Because I think a lot of the time they're just that we don't really see them as narrative or as limiting beliefs. They're just narratives in our mind. And because they're over and over and over and so prominent,
Mm-hmm.
potentially for years or decades or longer, it is no longer a limiting belief to us. It's just a narrative. So I want to call out what some of these limiting beliefs, the common ones that you see, are.
I have a couple that I see a lot, maybe even three. um, Number one, whether this is working with corporate professionals, whether I'm working with business owners, there's not enough time. Not enough time is a common thing. There is so much to do, not enough time to do it. And enough time is just a belief. And a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking over and over and over, and it becomes a belief. And if you wake up in the morning and you're already racing against the clock, thinking there is not enough time, that's exactly what you will experience in your life. Not enough time. And what we found is that this limiting belief actually it leads people to feel overwhelmed. If you keep thinking there is not enough time, you start to feel overwhelmed. And overwhelm is nothing but the unconscious belief that I have so much to do, that I need to get all these things done in an amount of time that it cannot get done in. And if I don't, then something bad is going to happen. The consequences are going to be terrible. That's the reason why we move into overwhelm, because we think that all of this list, it needs to get done today. And if I don't, something bad is going to happen. And automatically we move into overwhelm. But anytime we figure out what a limiting belief is, we have to come up with an empowering one to dismantle the limiting belief and start building a new empowering belief. And we can talk about that a little bit more later. So the empowering belief that I encourage people to think about when or to have when you think that there is not enough time and you're feeling overwhelmed is that I can only get so much done today, and I'm going to surrender the rest until tomorrow, because there is a corresponding nature of life. Life will correspond to whatever you can and cannot do. Life is supporting us in every step that we take, but we have to believe that. If I believe that life is supporting me, that's what I'm going to see evidence of. But if I believe that life is happening to me, that's exactly what I'm going to see evidence of. And one of them is overwhelm. So it's really important to just be conscious of that. And how many times I always tell myself, if I move into overwhelm, like, well, how many times you thought that oh, there's something and I need to get it done. I need to get it done. And then you don't get it done. And the next day, nothing happens. You're still alive. Life is going just fine. Nothing happened. I'm not saying you're going to sit down and do nothing or, just not worry about what you have to get done. No, but moving to overwhelm is moving into suffering. And the moment we move into suffering, we're in survival. So all of your energy is in survival. You can't create. You can't have good ideas. You can't basically, even the stuff that you're trying to do, you can't do it well because you're not doing it from a powerful state. You're not doing it from a state of relaxation, a state of calm, where you can actually think and see your purpose and why you're doing what you're doing. The moment you're in survival, it's done. Another one that's common as well is not good enough. People feeling not good enough. And to that, I want to believe this is one of the limiting beliefs that I had that prevented me from taking action, actually, thinking that I'm not good enough. Who am I to go back to school and have an MBA in the United States? I'm not good enough for that. Who am I to apply for a professional job? Nobody told me this, but I was telling myself, no company here will recognize my bachelor's degree because it's from Morocco. Nobody will recognize that. And that was not the reason why I wanted to have an MBA. It was just one of my dreams, to come in here. But I fed myself all these lies, and they prevented me from taking action for 8 years. So, not good enough. I want to believe that I'm created in the image of God. What is not good enough anyway? What does it even mean? Not good enough. What does it mean? What does it mean to be not good enough, and what does it mean to be enough? I just want to accept myself exactly the way I am, to not compare myself to anybody, to not judge myself. I am who I am, and I'm created in the best image of God, you know? Another one is, a lot of people believe money is hard to make. Money is hard to make. Money is hard to make. And a lot of those beliefs, as I'm sure you know, they're stuff that conclusions that we came up to as little kids. Sometimes we see our parents arguing about money, and that's something that we internalize that experience, and we go, oh, well, money creates problems, or money is hard to make, and we'll live the rest of our life based on that belief until we can figure out what's going on exactly, and then figure out that all we have is just a limiting belief of we've been operating based on that limiting belief since we could remember. But the beauty of it is that we can do something about this.
So my next question, I have a comment, but my next question for you is going to be, how do we start? Is there one step to like overcome every belief, or do you tackle it on a belief by belief basis? But I do just want to note, it was really interesting to me when you mentioned that second limiting belief of I'm not good enough. And the work that I do, I mean, we work with a lot of Western clients, but we also work with clients from different cultures all over the world, Asia, South America. And it's really interesting for me, coming from a Western perspective, to not always, but sometimes see, I guess, what you would call a limiting belief of like, oh, I don't deserve to live in Canada, and to start working my way toward residency there because that's like what we help clients with. We're like, I don't deserve to make X amount of money because that's what people in Western countries make, and I'm not from there. And so I find it really interesting, because I do spend a lot of time in Asia and Latin America over the last few years. My partner is from Latin America, and so really being integrated into that culture, it's really interesting for me to see. And I'm talking specific to Latin America because I have a lot of experience there, a lot of clients, a lot of family and friends who are there. But it's interesting to see the beliefs that I think are ingrained at such a young age and even in different languages, and then how they come to play decades later.
Yeah, it's definitely, and there is a reason. I want to share a concept with you to explain the structure of limiting beliefs and how they come about. So there is a concept called that I've been trained on in my mindset certification. It's called the five primary drivers. So what this concept says is that your beliefs predict and produce your destiny. Your beliefs predict and produce your destiny. Whatever you believe is going to produce the results that you have in life. So, and this five primary drivers, this concept, it starts with belief. So just think of it as this, circle. It starts with limiting beliefs. So whatever beliefs you have, they're going to produce thoughts that are in perfect alignment with that belief. You're going to react and perceive a situation in perfect correlation with the belief that you have about that situation. And then the thoughts, they produce feelings. Gandhi has this great quote. He said, "A man is but a product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes." And the becoming here is the feeling. It's the embodiment of that thought. So you can have an angry thought, then you become angry. You can have a happy thought, then you become happy. And then if you look at what happens after thoughts, after feelings, they always lead to some type of action. And sometimes that action is inaction. But the quality of the feelings you have dictates the quality of the actions that you take, right? And then the actions that you take produce the results that you have in life. So let's say we take an example. Let's say you're a 5-year old and you're, just like I mentioned, you're observing mom and dad arguing and fighting about money. You're going to have this experience that you're going to store in your brain about what you saw, about what you heard, and most importantly, about the conclusion that you came to as a 5-year old, which could be money is hard to make or money creates problems. So later on in life, as you are around money, you're going to have thoughts that are in perfect alignment with that belief. So if the belief is money is hard to make, you're going to develop a mindset of scarcity. Like there is not enough money. There is not enough opportunities to make money. And these are the thoughts you're going to have. And these thoughts will lead you to have feelings such as anxiety and stress and frustration that you can't make more money, that you can't get ahead, or insecurity. And because of those emotions and those feelings, you're not gonna take actions that could actually lead you to financial prosperity because you're insecure. Whatever little bit of money you have, you want to preserve that. You don't want to take any chances. And because of that, because of those actions that you take, we may sometimes, just sabotage ourselves, not taking those opportunities or give up on opportunities too soon because we don't see it. Oh, we have to see the result now. We don't see it. Oh, this is not working, and we end up sabotaging ourselves. And then those actions, obviously, they're going to produce the results that you have in life that are they have those results have to reinforce the belief that you have, which you go back and go, oh, see, money is hard to make. And the reason why people stuck, it's because, oh, they feel stuck. It's because they get caught in the cybernetic loop. So until you break free from the limiting belief, so you can start having different thoughts, different feelings, take different actions, then producing different results in life. So that's the reason why people feel stuck. So when I work with people, because I remember you mentioned something about like you tackle all limiting beliefs. No, it's one at a time. So we do a process called the Wheel of Life, and anyone can do it online. You can go online and just print it and look at each area of your life, because how often do we think about each area of our life? No, we focus on one or two things and that's it. That's all we think about. But the moment you actually can see it and you have to think about it, then you may realize that, oh, well, maybe I want to work on my health more than my relationship or more than my finances. But we don't think about that. So it's important to do that process just to give you clarity, because clarity is very important. So once you see that and you figure out what area you want to start with first, and I always go and I always tell my clients, what's the area where you feel that you have the most of suffering, where you feel that you suffer the most? That's mostly the area that you want to start working on first. There's always room for improvement. Even if you rate all areas of your life at a 10, well, let's see what a 15 looks like. There is always room for growth. There is always room for improvement. So, and we start working on that area, and then we figure out what's going on exactly, and we try to get into the limiting belief. And then once we figure out what the limiting belief is, then we have to come up with a new decision. One of the concepts that changed completely my life once I started doing the mindset certification, and my mentor said, beliefs are decisions. Beliefs, they're just decisions. We came into a decision at an early age because we didn't know any better. And guess what? We make decisions every day. You wake up in the morning and all day long you're making decisions. So we know how to make decisions. We don't know how to change beliefs, but we know how to make decisions. So if my whole life, I lived as with the belief that money is hard to make, well, I can decide now that no, money comes to me easily and abundantly. And of course, the brain is going to reject that if I lived my whole life not having enough money. But I have to look for evidence in my life when were times when someone gave me something, or I got a gift, or I got a refund that I didn't even expect. So there is evidence that money comes to me easily, even if it's not all the time, maybe sometimes, but that's evidence. And sometimes if we can't find the evidence in our life, we can borrow it from someone else's life. If someone can make money easily, then it's possible for me too, right? It's possible. And just having that and coming up with a new empowering decision, it helps to start building that neural network connection in your brain of the new decision so that you start operating from money comes to me easily instead of money is hard to make. And that's basically the process to change limiting beliefs.
I'm curious if you know, or just like generally, what is the science behind deciding and wanting and choosing to create a new belief for yourself, like new neural pathways? What does that look like on a granular level? And then how can you start to take that, whether it's action or mindset change? Like, how does that look like in the short, medium to long term? Because this is a long term mindset and belief that you're hopefully going to have to be sustainable, like, how does that start?
So I'll share with you a study that was done by Harvard Medical School. So they did this experience where the study where they brought in, it was actually published on Times Magazine, and they brought in these piano players and they asked them to play the piano, and they studied which part of the brain lit up. And then they asked them to come back and this time imagine that they're playing the piano and the same parts of the brain lit up. The same neural network connections became electrically stimulated. And what was concluded from that study is that the brain doesn't know the difference between what's imagined and what's real. So when you start repeating to yourself your new decision and you imagine it in your head, because you're not just repeating words, you have to put emotions behind it to anchor it. And once you start thinking about that, or you're doing visualization, thinking about, just seeing yourself making more money, or seeing yourself going in that dream vacation, or having a new job, or being with the person of your dreams, or whatever the case may be. Once you start doing that, you start to build neural network connections in your brain. And the more you do that, the stronger that connection will become. And when you think about something too much and you're focusing on it, what you're doing is that you're enrolling your brain to show you evidence of that. So if I'm enrolling my brain to show me evidence of money's easy to make, my brain will be showing me opportunities that I couldn't even think about. It's really fascinating when you start studying all this stuff. It's, to me, it's just amazing, and I'm just like at the beginning of it. I'm not claiming that I'm a neurosurgeon here, but it's just fascinating when you start thinking about how the brain functions. And another example that I really love is when you decide that you want to buy a different type of car, and you start thinking about that car, you start researching it and thinking about it and talking about it, all of a sudden you drive and now you see that car everywhere. So it happened to me every time I changed cars. And I'm like, oh my God, I never noticed this type of car until now. But now I understand what I'm doing. It's not that these cars are now popping everywhere, because that's the car you want to buy. No, what you did is that you enrolled your brain to show you evidence of something that's important to you because you've been thinking about it, you've been talking about it, and now your brain is showing you that. And there is actually a part of the brain called the reticular activating system, the RES, which is that lens that helps you see. Because what the RES does is that it dictates what information comes in and what information gets filtered out, because there is so much sensory information around us. I mean, we'll go crazy if we try to ingest it all. But what the brain does, it narrows down the band of of the field of what you experience into a very narrow band. And that band is based on what you believe. This is why you're always going to see evidence of what you believe. That's the reason why. Your brain is always showing you what's the most dominant thing in your head. What are you thinking about? What are you focused on? And that's the evidence that you're going to see.
I'm curious, can you think about something that you want too much where it becomes more of a detriment?
I don't believe that. I honestly don't believe that. I've never experienced anything that I've focused on so much that I wanted so much, and then it ended up detrimental for me. I have not experienced anything like that. Anytime I wanted something and I focused on it, I'm not saying it happens overnight. It takes time. You have to take action. But where focus goes, energy flows. The more you focus on something, that's what you feed. That's what grows. That's what you see evidence of. So to me, that going into becoming something that you really want to becoming a detriment, no, I have not really experienced that or seen it.
So this has been a very, I mean, time's flown by. This has been a very
I
interesting
know.
discussion, and I'm sure we could continue this on for many more hours because there's so much that really goes on in terms of having a positive mindset for life, business, health,
Yeah.
wellness, relationships. Like there's money, there's so many areas, and I'm sure you focus on all of them, if not a lot of them. But where can people find you online if they're interested in learning more about you, your work, what you do, and how you help your clients?
My website is the main place where people can find me at naimaspencer.com. And actually, I offer an hour discovery call for free to anyone who wants to learn more about my work or discuss something with me or run something by me. I'm more than happy to help.
You've just listened to the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast. If anything from this episode resonated with you, I'd appreciate if you share this podcast on your socials. And of course, be sure to tag us at Work, Wealth, and Travel. And don't forget to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for joining us on this global citizen journey, and we'll see you in the next episode.